the protesters that started the day off peaceful, or were they part of another group, outsiders inciting violence? We just don't know right now. But protesters have told us that their meaningful messages are being overshadowed by violent looters who are hijacking their efforts. We have a crew on the scene near Barrio Logan today. Our News 8's Neda Iranpour has the latest on the situation out there, the second straight day of protesting. Neda?
Yeah, Alicia, we're here at Chicano Park, and this is where they blocked off the road. We're right on Logan Avenue, Cesar Chavez Parkway. So take a look here. You can see this group. It's been growing here in the past 30-45 minutes since we've been out here, and you can see signs like the one right there that says there are no good cops. There's a group here that was supporting, it's brown lives supporting black lives, and that's the message that we've seen on a few of the signs that have been out here. And this group started off pretty small around 11 a.m. And then it grew over the past 30 minutes or so. In fact, they are on Logan at Cesar Chavez, and they've blocked this area off to all cars. We have seen a couple cars trying to get through, and they had to turn around. And then this is access to the Coronado Bridge. So you see the sign right there, the 75, and there's a line of people standing right in front of that on-ramp that would take you to the Coronado Bridge. We have not seen them get on that on-ramp. They've just blocked this area off. And then it's also blocked off near Evans Street. So right near Chicano Park, the street surrounding it, this is where they're not allowing cars to come through. We have not seen a police presence, but I can tell you right around 11 a.m., we did see several officers just across the street from here, and it looks like a lot of those officers have dispersed to various parts of downtown San Diego. And we were actually over at San Diego Police Headquarters just about an hour or so ago, and that's where we've seen, you know, a crowd right around 15th and E. So I believe we have video of that we can show you. So right around 15th and E, that's where they were gathering, and we're now getting reports that that crowd has dispersed. But there was a line of police officers in front of San Diego PD headquarters blocking people off from the entrance there, from that front area. And it looks like a lot of the crowd still remaining peaceful. Of course, emotions were running high. There were a few speakers that were very making passionate pleas for equality, and a lot of mothers actually we heard speak about their children. They're worried about their kids going out on the streets and being confronted by police officers. So that was one of the messages we heard from a woman. And there was also a man that we spoke to, who I believe we have sound from, whose main message was that he wants this all to stay peaceful so that the message can be heard. Let's take a listen to him if we have that available.
That's ride on ride. It causes nothing. We all seen what happened to La Mesa. It's not gonna work at all. I want to come out here, show my support, but in a peaceful way. We can disrupt these streets. We can disrupt everyday, how would you say, lives by showing our being together. That is the only way it's gonna work. By out of here agitating the police, where they start throwing tear gas and we go throwing back, it's not gonna work.
You know, we can tell you now throughout downtown San Diego, here Barrio Logan, there are quite a few groups. In fact, it looks like many of them have split off, but between 500 to 700 people have been taking to the streets throughout the past couple hours since about 10 o'clock this morning. And one of our photographers who's out on this scene over by San Diego Police Headquarters is now telling me that they've dispersed, and it looks like they're heading west on G Street, most likely heading to the Hall of Justice, Harbor Drive as well. We've seen people walking that direction. So you'll see a lot of crowds throughout downtown. In fact, San Diego Police, they've been tweeting regular updates, and they're asking a lot of vehicle traffic to stay away so that people can continue to protest peacefully. And they did say about a half hour or so ago that some rocks were being thrown at police officers, and then they quickly tweeted a few minutes later that the rocks throwing has stopped. But let's bring you back here live if we can. You can see a little bit of a disturbance here right on Logan Avenue near Chicano Park. So we're not sure what that is, but a couple people seem to be yelling at a lady that was in the middle of the crowd. So there's been a few little disturbances throughout these protests, and we don't see police out in this area right now to kind of settle things down a bit, but it does look like they're encouraging this woman to get out of this location, it seems like. So we're hearing other people yell, keep the focus, don't let her get to you. So they really just, there's a larger group that does want the message of the protest to remain with the Black Lives Matter group. So that is the big message here at Chicano Park. As we're trying to get a glance around to see what is happening, this is what we're going to see a lot of throughout the day. It seems like we have seen many of these groups, throughout the streets today, and so far, according to police, it's remained peaceful except for a few incidents of rock throwing at officers, and that's really all we've heard. And anyone that does start to get a little violent, it seems like there's a larger group that's telling them to calm down and to remain focused on their message. So that's what it appears is happening there. We're not close enough, obviously, to find out exactly what they're saying in that location. But again, we're at Chicano Park, live in this location, and yes, this group has been growing here in the past 30-45 minutes, as we see, and we'll just kind of keep an eye on what's happening here, and have not seen police here in the past, I would say, hour. It looks like a lot of police are downtown throughout Harbor Drive, near headquarters, kind of maintaining what's going on there. Here's a woman with a flag just blocking our cameras now. So, at this point, there's a lot of different messages that we're hearing throughout this area. Many people saying peace, they want justice, they want equal treatment. And that is a big message that they are saying here. And, some of the signs, it's brown lives supporting black lives. That's what we heard them chant earlier. We heard them chant, I can't breathe, signs in support of George Floyd. And that was the initial message that we saw when we first arrived. So we'll stay out here and check out what's going on, and then also continue to cover what's going on throughout downtown as well. For now, Alicia, we'll send it back to you.
All right, Netta, thank you so much. And we're just getting word there's another group of protesters heading west on G Street, and another group of protesters in front of the Hall of Justice downtown as well. So we have crews on their way. We're going to bring you the latest from the scene as soon as we possibly can. But people are hurting right now. People are angry. They want to see a change in the way the black community is being treated by police. They say they are unfairly targeted. We've seen the message throughout today and yesterday. The most recent example being a local example, the controversial arrest of a young black man at the Grossmont trolley station on Wednesday. The arrest was caught on camera, showing a white police officer pushing, shoving an African-American man who says he was just sitting there waiting for a friend. And then nationally, the country is angry over the murder of a Minneapolis man, George Floyd, at the knee of a white police officer. The officer kneeled on Floyd's neck for several minutes until he eventually died. And you could hear him painfully say that he can't breathe. That officer was swiftly charged with third-degree murder. The La Mesa police officer was put on leave the day after the incident. Nevertheless, all of this is creating a perfect storm of pain and despair. And to make matters worse, people have been sitting at home with no jobs to go back to because of the pandemic. So understandably so, people are gathering, they're protesting, trying to make their messages heard. Demonstrations remained peaceful yesterday during the day. This is video from that on the 8 freeway. And then the situation turned violent at night. As the hours went by, the situation devolved. There was looting, there was rioting, cars were being set on fire, including a fire vehicle. 2 banks were set on fire. We saw businesses being ransacked, small businesses, Play It Again Sports in La Mesa, as well as Sally's Beauty Supply in La Mesa. That is someone's livelihood that was destroyed because of these riots last night. So the big question, were the nighttime looters part of the protesters that started the day off peaceful, or were they part of another group, outsiders inciting violence? We just don't know right now. I'm getting word that we have chopper video, live video from our chopper. Is that correct? Okay, this is Chopper 8, looking at the protests that have started this morning, or this afternoon, I should say. We saw Arnetta Iranpour live in Barrio Logan, where it appeared that protesters are remaining peaceful. She saw signs saying Black Lives Matter, I can't breathe. Brown lives stand with Black lives. We know that the Coronado Bridge has been shut down. You could see Barrio Logan right there, and on top, that is the entrance from the 5 freeway to the Coronado Bridge, which has been shut down because the concern is that protesters would go on foot on the 5 freeway and then walk across the bridge, and that's not what they wanted to happen. So they have shut the bridge down. So far, it looks like the intersection is at the bottom right of your screen, so you could see there is absolutely no traffic. If you are thinking about going in that area, not a good time right now. This could be shut down for the rest of the day. In the meantime, we're getting word that county supervisors have issued a state of emergency for the county, and a dawn to dusk curfew has been established for the city of La Mesa. That is from 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. Or 7 p.m., I should say, until 7 a.m. So the situation, this is the second straight day of protesting here locally. Moving forward, you know, we're hoping that today doesn't turn violent like we saw yesterday. The big question that is on a lot of people's minds right now is, who was the group of violent looters yesterday? Protesters have told us that their meaningful messages of Black Lives Matter and no justice, no peace, are being overshadowed by violent looters who are hijacking their efforts. So again, as the protests developed today, we saw it remain peaceful for the most part right now, just like it was yesterday. And then as soon as it became dark, as soon as it became closer to night, tensions rose and the violence started. So we're hoping to not see that again today. We'll stay on this breaking news situation and bring you updates as soon as we get them. We have crews on the scene. There are several situations going on near the downtown San Diego area. We saw Netta and Barrio Logan. We're hearing there's another group of protesters heading west on G Street. And we're also hearing that protesters are gathered in front of the Hall of Justice as well. Do we have crews available to give us a look at what's happening on the ground? All right. All right, we will effort updated information on this breaking news situation, second day of protests here in San Diego. Stick with CBS News 8 for any local updates. You can also visit our website, cbs8.com. Good afternoon, I'm Alicia Summers. We have breaking news out of downtown San Diego, where a group of protesters are gathered near the Hall of Justice. Major police presence downtown near police headquarters as well. Freeway entrances are closed, as is the Coronado Bridge. San Diego police say their vehicles are being hit by objects.
We have our Netta report on the scene downtown near Horton Plaza, where things have escalated in the last few minutes. I believe we have a shot down there. Are we going down there? Here's Netta.
I'm right here. I'm staying right here.
Netta, can you hear us? You're on.
Yeah, we are. I can hear you. If you can hear me, okay. My photographer, Teen, is down here right on Broadway in Second, and this is where we heard some flashbangs and a lot of people started running. It looks like we saw the police were trying to push people back here on Broadway. We're right by Horton Plaza, the Speckles Theater, and the crowd here is dispersed. There's a big crowd and a line of police, and you can see the police, I believe, if you're watching the live camera shot from my photographer, from Teen, who's out here, and it just all happened within the past 45 seconds or so, where we were just walking down with the crowd, and then we heard the flashbang, saw the big puff of smoke, and we hear that sound and the burning, of course, in the eyes, and you can feel it in the lungs. And a lot of people just started running back down on Broadway, and now they're on Second, kind of dispersed throughout downtown here, right near Horton Plaza, right near Speckles Theater. We're live right now.
Netta,
so you can see a lot of this area that you're looking at is clearing. Yes, go ahead, I hear you.
Netta, did you see anything that triggered this? I mean, were the officers responding to something, or does it look like they were just trying to clear people out?
It looks like they were just lined up here on First and Broadway, and so they were just trying to keep people away from the federal building, from this area of downtown. I don't know what led up to those flashbangs or the tear gas getting fired out, but the crowd was getting close to the line of police, and you see the police right there, I believe, and we can see them from our vantage point in, full riot gear, and they blocked off First Avenue and Broadway. We did see reports from San Diego police that people were throwing bottles and rocks. We're going to move back now because it looks like they may do this again. So people were throwing rocks and bottles, it appears. And so we're going to get out of that location just to avoid getting any kind of tear gas fired towards us. So right now, it looks like police just want people to disperse. So they don't want this crowd gathering so heavily. If you can see it here, there's people spraying people's faces with what appears to be milk to try to ease some of that burn, perhaps, from the gas that was coming out. The tear gas, we believe, is what it was, the pepper spray. Here's more people running. Team, come on with me. We're okay, we're okay. Okay, I gotta stay with him. Okay, we're okay, we're okay. All right, in between cars. Okay, I'm right here.
Netta, did you see was there any property destruction or anything like that going on when this happened?
You can hear that. Not right here. No, not in this location from what we can see, but you can see the smoke coming out. They just fired another round. You heard that loud bang. There looks to be perhaps tear gas, pepper spray in the air, and a lot of people coughing and running away from this location. So this is...
Netta, we do want you to stay at a safe distance.
Trying to figure out what's happening.
Yeah, we did hear you.
Corner right now.
Okay, it looks like that crowd has grown a lot since we checked in with you about 30 minutes ago. And we heard you say that you saw protesters throw rocks and water bottles. Any announcements heard on loudspeakers telling people to stop or disperse before that tear gas, that possible tear gas and flashbangs were deployed?
From what I can hear from where we are, I do not hear police talking to the crowd. So we are around the corner, so we just hear the crowd, just getting kind of, they're building here around Broadway and Second. So right now they were around First and Broadway, I believe, and then now they're being pushed back to Second. And right now you can hear a lot of people saying we will not be silenced. This is a crowd of about a few hundred people, it appears, that we have seen throughout downtown. And Alicia, you mentioned we were live about half an hour ago. That was at Chicano Park in Barrio Logan, a lot smaller crowd. We did see San Diego police tweeting out that, rocks and bottles are being thrown at officers downtown. So they are now, asking people to stay away from this area. And I think they're just trying to disperse the crowd. It's a growing crowd against a line of officers in riot gear. And all of this happening right by the Federal Building and Horton Plaza. So we're actually kind of in a driveway area by Horton Plaza, around the corner from where we see all the officers in their gear, where we heard the flashbangs and the pepper spray. So that's why we're around the corner right now, just trying to stay away. But you can kind of see the crowd start running, and then we're getting between cars just to make sure we're not obviously in the line of the crowd getting run over by anybody, and also not in the line of the pepper spray and the tear gas that's being fired, it seems like.
Oh, and now we just heard a loud bang.
More of the bangs. Yeah, we've heard at least 4 or 5 of those since we got here, even just a few minutes ago. So, they're continuing to fire those rounds, and it looks like we see that puff of smoke come out after that, and so it appears to be tear gas that they're trying to fire at the crowd to disperse them. Okay, I'll stay right here, and sure.
You'll remember yesterday.
Around the corner of the crowd, and team, be careful. He's got the big camera on his shoulder, so we of course wanted to be careful as possible. That's our cruiser, trying to be safe.
Yes, be safe, Netta. And the tear gas, the pepper balls.
In the crowd as well. Yeah.
The tear gas and the pepper balls were not deployed this early yesterday in La Mesa, so this seems to be getting out of control a little bit earlier than the protest was yesterday.
Okay. We're going to move further back because we do see more officer vehicles coming through cop cars, and there's another bang if you could hear that. And it looks like the crowd just coming around the corner through Horton Plaza to get to Broadway, and that's where obviously police are asking people to stay away. But there's a group of a lot of emotional people here that want their message heard, and they're saying we can't be silenced. And that's really a lot of the message that we're hearing. There's signs up here saying Black Lives Matter, and it's justice for George Floyd. We've seen that at various locations throughout downtown today. So like we said, we were at Chicano Park, Barrio Logan earlier. There was a smaller crowd there, and now this is a really large crowd of, reports of 500 to 700 people throughout downtown San Diego. And I can tell you right now, there's musicians playing in the middle of Horton Plaza, right by the Westin Hotel. On our way here, just another block from here, there was a small prayer group. If that gives you an idea of kind of the vast range of emotions that are coming through this area. There's a prayer group, they're, praying for peace, and then there's, people trying to go up against police, trying to, I don't know if they're trying to cross the police line, but you see the riot gear out there, and, obviously they don't want people to cross the line, and they're trying to disperse the crowd. And, a lot of people just want to be heard, and that's what brings them here. So that's what we're seeing, just a lot of mixed high ranges of emotions throughout here. And
Netta, did you get a sense of how many police officers were out there?
Oh, Alicia, I think every block on 1st and Broadway, like the line of police that we saw right here, there's about 30 officers in riot gear on one block, and then the next block. So I would say on this corner alone, 1st Broadway, 2nd Broadway, probably about 100 or more police officers lined up, because they really don't want anyone to cross that police line. So this area, they're trying to protect, and they're if you're familiar with this area of downtown, it's the Federal Building, it's Horton Plaza, it's this whole area they want people to stay away from. And I can tell you now that we're on 1st and Broadway, we just walked one block over, it's a lot calmer. We were looking at just the police officers and just a handful of people, looking at them, towards them, but not trying to incite any violence. They're just standing there watching kind of what happens next, as we are as well. We're right, near Chipotle on the corner of 1st and Broadway, by the Spreckles Theater, if that gives you a reference as well of where we are. So it's, at least this block one over is a lot calmer. And we do see, I want to mention just our vantage point and just kind of what we've seen over the past couple hours. That it was, pretty calm there. They were asking people to get onto 15th Street so they can have a larger area to rally together. Police, encouraging obviously peaceful protests. They were saying, they're, fine with that. They're going to support peaceful protests, and it looks like at this point it's taken a different turn now with police keeping people back. So, here after just, 3 o'clock now, so about 5 hours or so into these protests throughout downtown, it's definitely taken on a different tone, getting a little rowdier, the crowd obviously louder, growing, and there's just a heavier police presence. When we were at police headquarters around 10:30, it was much calmer. You can hear people speaking and, making their pleas for justice for George Floyd, and now at this point it's hard to tell the mixed messages that we are hearing out here. So that's kind of where we are now. I know it's a lot to happen as we kind of watch it all unfold, but trying to give you guys the best vantage point and the best perspectives of what's going on, what people want to
You're giving us great perspective. We've been able to get some shots from overhead too, from the chopper. So you're back on Broadway now, it looks like. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're on Broadway and First, and I'm also seeing, from police that they have been tweeting out that multiple police vehicles have been vandalized. So they posted that just about 20 minutes or so ago. I don't see that from where we are, but they do say that happened at Front and Broadway. They said it was an aggressive crowd at State and Broadway. So it appears, from the police's viewpoint, that things are getting a little more hectic out here, and that may be why they've dispatched more officers, and that's why we're seeing this heavy line of police blocking off Broadway, basically, is what they're doing here. So they don't want people to cross over onto Broadway, and that's why they're dispersing the crowd away from those locations. And you can see them, lined up with their masks on and their full-on gear. I'm trying to listen to what they're saying as well.
Netta, we're looking at a scene through the officers. Teen was zoomed in on what looked like someone being bound on the ground. I don't know if you can get a better vantage, but Teen was looking at somebody. We saw their feet on the ground facing down and officers tending to them. I don't know if you can tell if that's a protester who was hurt or what's going on there.
It's very hard for me to tell because we have such a big, heavy police presence. I can't see through them to see what our photographer was pointing at. But
he zoomed in. It was a little bit beyond them.
There's no way for me to get that vantage point.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like he was being restrained on the ground of some sort.
We need to move back because they're going to start pushing us back.
They're going to start pushing back. Okay, it looks like officers are going to keep
unlawful
people pulling back. An unlawful assembly. Okay. We're getting reports now, they're calling this an unlawful assembly, so it sounds like they're going to continue pushing people back. So we also want to make sure we're out of the way if they do start telling crowds to move back, or if any of the pepper spray gets fired again. We'll just be further away. But it does appear, with police reporting that rocks and bottles are being thrown and police cars being vandalized, they do want this crowd to disperse, and at this point, they're trying to get people out of this area. So,
but Netta, just to be clear, we're getting reports of that, but you've been on the ground for a while. You haven't seen any of those actions or behaviors yourself yet, correct?
I have seen bottles being thrown from the crowd. So I have not seen the vehicles that police are reporting were vandalized from where we are here on Broadway and First. But when I was on Second and that crowd was getting pretty large and pretty rowdy, we did see bottles being thrown just into the crowd towards Broadway where the officers are, but I didn't see any contact with officers.
Okay.
Netta, we're seeing aerial shots from Chopper, and it would appear there is a huge crowd in downtown. Now, downtown has many twists and turns and many intersections. So from where you're at, it doesn't look as packed as it was just minutes ago. But this aerial shot that we're looking at, it looks very crowded, and people are not moving. They're standing there, and you said officers are blocking Broadway, announcing that this is an unlawful assembly. Is there a reason why they're blocking Broadway? Are they trying to prevent them from getting somewhere?
It's hard to tell why they're blocking Broadway unless this is where the bulk of the rock throwing and the bottle throwing was happening. Like, as I was watching their San Diego Police's Twitter, they've been updating every few minutes.
We're seeing people run now, Netta.
Rock throwing was happening here. Now people are running.
Yeah, I could hear the banging as well. So some more flashbangs and possible tear gas and pepper balls being deployed again, and it's evident by the crowd running away.
Yeah. And that looks to be just one block possibly over from where we are, because we see that gas in the air. You can see it, the white puff of smoke that comes out after you hear those bangs. So I believe that's just one block over where we were, and then we moved to a safer place just to not get run over by the crowd, because, you know, there's hundreds of people that are out here. So we just want to get to a safer place. And yeah, you see a lot of that gas in the air from this viewpoint. So it looks like maybe towards Second near Spreckles Theater, there's still some people gathering, getting closer to police perhaps, and that may be what they're doing, trying to keep those people away. But on First and Broadway right here, it seems to be more people looking on, trying to understand really what's happening. There's a woman actually with a sign that says, "Can you hear us now?" And we've heard a lot of people say, "We will not be silenced." Another woman with a sign that says, "Peace." So we obviously are seeing the full range of emotions here, which, you know, these rallies have been going on across the country, and we're seeing the full range of emotions. There's a lot of upset people, a lot of people who want peaceful protests, but also that message to be heard of justice for George Floyd, equality, being treated equal among, you know, people who've been confronted by police. So, you know, earlier we spoke with a man over by San Diego Police headquarters, and he says, you know, riots can't be met with riots. He doesn't think violence is going to help solve these problems. But there's a lot of people who are upset. You know, they feel they've been mistreated by police, and you see these emotions really raw out here now. You know, it's still the middle of the day, and I know there's a concern that once the sun goes down, things could turn differently, but we're already seeing, you know, the bottle throwing. And as police said, the vandalism to their police cars.
So Ned, I just want
to get a handle on this.
I want to give people a little bit of a picture, because you are where we want. We want you to be safe at a good distance. You're on First Street, a little bit south of Broadway. There's a line of police preventing more people from getting onto Broadway. And then on Broadway itself, there's a big line of officers a little bit to the east, clearing people out, shooting the tear gas canisters, etc. Is that a good description of what you're seeing?
Yeah, it looks like where Spreckles Theater is in Horton Plaza. That's where they're shooting those flashbangs that we heard and the smoke that we saw, the pepper spray. So that was their attempt to push people further away from First and Broadway, from Second and Broadway, and just kind of disperse them out into the downtown street so they're not all huddled on Broadway up against that line of police officers. So that line of police officers are standing ground right there on Broadway, and they're just keeping people away, it looks like, from the Federal Building and from Spreckles Theater, Horton Plaza, hoping perhaps that disperses them. It's hard to tell if they've continued blocking more of the other streets, since we can't see all of that, but from the aerial view, hopefully you can get a perspective of, you know, what areas they want people to stay away from. I can tell you, you know, police have encouraged drivers to stay away from downtown altogether. You know, we saw the people walking on the 5. We saw people blocking the entrance to the Coronado Bridge. So, of course, this whole area, you just wouldn't be safe if you want to try to access it. Police want people to stay away, and it looks like a lot of the ralliers that are out here are still, you know, lining up and wanting to make sure their chants are heard, that police hear their voices and see their signs, and, you know, they're not necessarily giving up at this point. You can still see that large crowd. And they've been here since 10 o'clock this morning downtown. They gathered at Chicano Park at noon today. And, you know, that crowd was growing just before our eyes as well as we were out there. So, you know, we're just seeing this emotional presence, things getting more intense, as we just witnessed with the tear gas coming through. And I don't know if you can see our viewpoint now, but there are more people coming through the drive-through area of the Westin Hotel here. So there's a bigger crowd here as well, right on First Avenue, a block from where the police are with their riot gear, and now there's just more people out here. Just kind of waiting and seeing what happens, it seems like, and every now and then they do come out with chanting. And, you know, we saw obviously a lot of signs that say, "I can't breathe," and they're here in support of George Floyd. Okay.
Netta, you were live at Barrio Logan this morning when this protest sort of started. It would appear that a lot of those people have possibly moved to downtown, where you're located now. We also saw the 5 freeway and the Coronado Bridge being shut down. And from our understanding, the bridge is still shut down, preparing for protesters to possibly try and spill over onto the freeway once again. So we're not exactly sure where the bulk of the people are at this moment. It looks like there are a bunch of smaller groups dispersed throughout the downtown San Diego area.
Yeah, the unlawful assembly order has been given in the area of Broadway. So just to point that out from San Diego Police, asking everyone to disperse immediately because the escalation of violence by protesters. So San Diego Police seeing a lot of this, unfold, escalating with the rocks and bottles being thrown. They're reporting their vehicles being vandalized, and now they're calling this an unlawful assembly, again, right on Broadway, which is why we saw the pepper spray and the flashbangs, why we heard all of that happen just, moments as we were going live on our air. And so that crowd, as we saw, was running away in those huge groups, and it looks like they just want people away from Broadway. And they're hoping that settles things down a little bit, but they're calling it an unlawful assembly. They're saying tear gas has been deployed at First and Broadway, so they are confirming that's what we have been feeling and saw in the air. We felt it in our eyes, and it's hard to breathe that in, as some people know that have been out here, of course, and dispersal orders are being given. They're saying, please leave the area. So San Diego Police right now asking everyone to please leave the area. We were just walking away from this location. Obviously, we don't want to be near the area where they're asking everyone to leave. And so now we're just one block over on First Avenue, and we see more cop cars here, or motorcycles, I should say, that are here. So this unlawful assembly, they're trying to just end. It's now escalated, and they want things to end in this location, and now we'll just have to see what happens with the crowd. Will it settle them down, or what will happen? So obviously our Chopper 8 view will give you that better vantage point, since we're trying to get kind of to a safer area away from the big groups. And also do need to kind of get that tear gas out of our eyes as well. So just kind of stepping away to get a little bit of that fresher air. This is a tough time for, a lot of us field crews that are out here. And photographer Teen was right there in the middle of all of that when we saw the tear gas being fired. So he definitely needs to clear the eyes out a little bit and get that tear gas out of his face, out of his lungs, and just kind of help him feel better. So it's one of those moments you don't know what's going to unfold, and we want to be as safe as we can, but bring you the news as best as we can, so you can see what people are going through, what people are feeling, and what police are trying to do to help disperse this crowd and bring some peace as well. That's kind of, a lot of people have also said that to us. They hope today's peaceful. Alicia, I heard you say that earlier as well. I mean, we saw what happened last night in La Mesa, and the hope was that today would not turn into that same type of violence. And it looks like the police officers are full on gear trying to get people away from here, hoping that will settle things down a little bit. But with that crowd, such a large crowd, how do you settle that down if people's emotions are running high? So, they're just trying to disperse everybody.
You're right, Netta. Demonstrations did remain peaceful during the day yesterday, and then the situation turned violent as night approached. And it looks like today, with police reporting that some of their cruisers have been vandalized and rocks and bottles being thrown at officers, it would seem that the peace didn't last as long today, which is unfortunate, but hopefully as we go into the night it doesn't get worse. We can change it from here and keep it peaceful and continue to get that important message across and have the focus be on the message and not the violence.
Yeah, and I can say, right now, just I know that from the chopper 8 view, I'm sure you're getting a different perspective of the mass, the crowd that's out here. But where we are on First, it is much calmer. This just seems to be, an area where a lot of people who were pushed back are coming and walking and kind of just waiting and observing, some just leaving even. So it doesn't seem like there's the huge group that wanted to confront police. There's, plenty of people who got pushed back and stayed back, and that's what we're seeing on First. But obviously the aerial view will give you that better vantage point of the, the mass of people and where they are. But, many of them just out on these streets as we've been kind of walking through several blocks downtown to just see where a lot of people are, we want to stay safe as possible. So it is just better to be down here on First. We're right on F Street and First, just to give you an idea, a couple blocks from where the police have their line up on Broadway. And they're asking people to disperse. We want to make sure we also follow those rules as well. And but this area at least gives us a moment just to get a little breather. It looks like a lot of people just wanted to get out of that tear gas. Also came one block over to get a little breather. But as you guys saw from our photographer's footage, he was right there where the police were, and you guys mentioned there was someone in custody. So at this point, we're just waiting to find out, if arrests have been made, what's been going on, and what led to that tear gas being thrown out.
Netta, what were your observations about the makeup of the protesters groups that you were in and around this morning? Were they mostly peaceful? Did you get the feeling they were looking to, they were seeking a confrontation or to seek damage? What was the mix?
This morning, we started off at San Diego Police Headquarters, so right on 15 and E, and there were a lot of people just saying we want this to be peaceful because we want our message heard. So we heard that over and over again. Like I said earlier, the man that we interviewed said, you can't meet riots with riots. So he really didn't want the groups to get too rowdy or too violent. They were trying to calm others down whose emotions were getting high, saying, hey, make sure you stay on message, stay on point, make sure people know that they feel, they're being mistreated by police officers. And that's the main message that we kept hearing throughout these little pockets of groups of ralliers.
We seem to be losing.
Teen.
Oh, it's a very fluid situation out there.
Teen!
All right, it would appear that Teen is one of our photojournalists, and I'm not clear what happened, but Netta needs to go tend to him, so we're going to check back in with them later. We're trying to keep our crews as safe as we possibly can.
We're looking at a shot right now from Chopper 8. We're looking down. This is on Broadway. I believe it's looking toward the east right now. We know that the police have been congregated on 2nd and at First as well. There was a large gathering, and then, I don't know, about a half hour ago, they started, maybe a little bit more, started to disperse tear gas, smoke canisters, pushing people off. We have reports that cruisers were being vandalized. Our reporter on the ground, Netta Iranpour, confirmed that she saw bottles, at least, and some other objects thrown at officers, but did not see any of the vandalism we're told happened to the cruisers. The situation, though, something was going on there. Right now, we heard our reporter Netta in a little bit of distress with our photographer Teen Howard on the ground there, and we have our own concern right now. Yeah. It's a dangerous situation.
Yeah, and during that shot as well, we saw one person on the ground with some sort of restraint on, so it's unclear what was happening there. Possibly someone being taken into custody, we just don't know, but they were definitely on the ground with police officers overhead. Is this Netta? Can you hear us? Are you okay?
Oh, I can hear you. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes. Are you okay? Is Teen okay?
Teen is okay. Yeah, he's doing much better. Just had to wash out all the tear gas from the eyes. So, Teen, are you doing okay? They're asking how you're doing. Yeah, he gave a thumbs up. We're good. We're just going to walk One block where Union Street is. We're headed that way to get around towards Broadway, kind of behind the police line so that we're not where the crowds of people are. Because, you know, that's where they're firing the tear gas and the pepper spray, so we just want to be further away from them. So at this point, that's where we're headed, just one block over to see kind of what's going on. I can tell you from here, I can hear more sirens from officers' vehicles around this area. So it's just, you know, at this point, hard to tell what's happening as far as are they making arrests? Are they experiencing more violence or not? Or has the flashbangs worked? I mean, is that calming people down at all? That's what's really hard to tell, because you see everyone run all at once, which we saw just as we went live on the air. We were running as well because you just hear that loud sound, and it is quite terrifying to hear, and it just kind of sends everyone in a frenzy. And these groups of people, obviously you don't want to get stuck in that. Certainly can get dangerous, people getting trampled over. You know, we kind of took cover in between cars, or at least tried to. But at this point, we're on Union Street walking towards Broadway. So we do see a few more officers here as well.
You're next to the old federal courts, and you're walking up on the Hall of Justice right now, basically.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly right. Oh, and officers are telling us to move away.
Even with media, could we be behind the scene, though?
Where do you want us to go? Is it blocked off on Broadway at State?
We're blocking it off now.
All of Broadway?
Yeah.
To what? Between what and what? Do you know?
I'm not sure how far the perimeter holds, but at least you'll be able to see it on State Street.
Okay. Okay, so they're telling us to
one block
go
over
down to State Street. They've blocked off Broadway. Yeah, so we'll go one block over. So I apologize, we're scurrying along as quick as we can, but State and Broadway they have blocked. And I don't know if you can hear the officer telling us, but he's not sure how long the stretch of Broadway they're going to block, but they're basically keeping that whole area, you know, protected basically from the crowds, and
Netta,
the officers have created a line there.
It sounds like he was talking about a perimeter, so it looks like they have the line of officers on Broadway, and then on each street moving east, are they lining up officers blocking the street? Did they have a line of officers on Union protecting Broadway?
So we can get on
Yes, so not on Union, we just turned on Union, but where the Hall of Justice is, there's kind of that entryway, there's a little fence, it looks like. And that's where there's just about 3 or 4 officers.
And Netta, I got relayed a question. I think this is kind of valid because people want to understand escalation. You said you did see some bottles thrown. Were they glass bottles? Were they plastic water bottles? Can you categorize what they were?
Yeah. So from what I saw, it was plastic water bottles. You know, possibly just it's hot out here, so people may have just had that, and then in the frantic state of everyone kind of running away from the tear gas, we saw a couple people just throwing those into the crowd towards the direction of officers. I didn't see any hit any officers, but yeah, we saw plastic bottles, at least from my vantage point.
And Netta,
but like you said, we said earlier, you know, police were saying people were throwing rocks as well. I personally did not see that.
Okay.
Netta, people are messaging me concerned about your eyes and teens' eyes with the pepper spray, the tear gas. I know you brought some whole milk with you at the scene. Did that help at all alleviate the pain? I'm also hearing baking soda paste with cool water, not warm water, helps as well. Have you guys tried that personally?
I have not needed to. Thankfully, it didn't bother me that much to need to put milk in my eyes. Teen, did you pour milk in your eyes, or was it water?
I haven't had time yet.
He hasn't had a chance to yet, but they're asking how your eyes are doing.
They're burning, watery, but I wiped them off with water, so it's just like a constant burn, but it's manageable.
It's manageable, he says. He's a tough guy. So we definitely, you know, felt the effects of it. And every now and then you get kind of these wafts of it in our throat. There's a little bit of a breeze comes in and you kind of see it pick up or feel it pick up a little bit. So it just gets caught in the throat and it's that burn. And yeah, we haven't tried the whole milk to know if it works, but I can tell you there were a few people with these kits set up with milk attached to these pumps, and they were spraying that in some of these people's eyes. They were ready in case the tear gas did come out. And so they were spraying that. And here we are now, guys, on State Street. And there are several police officer vehicles, SUVs, lined up on State. And it looks like where the crowd is on Broadway, they're just standing there kind of looking towards Broadway to see what's happening, what's going to go on. But there's the vehicles only in this location. So yeah, at this point, there are officers here as well now that we're getting closer to Broadway. So the heavy police presence, and as we, been reporting, police asking people to disperse. So that's why they're brought on this heavy police presence to make sure people do stay away from this spot. And yeah, so I'm looking at Broadway now, and appears to be a line of people on State and Broadway. I'm seeing a few people cheering. I'm not sure why. Here's a line of people and then a line of police as well, just facing each other at this point. So it appears fairly quiet, and just heard some cheering. So we're just kind of stepping into this area to see what's happening. That appears to be a woman addressing the officers here. A couple ladies in the front row. So this lady is saying, "Why are you here? I want to know your story." So she is addressing the crowd. And then her sign, if you can see it, "You have to go through me to kill my family behind me. Signed Humanity." So that's her sign. She's asking the crowd, "Why are you here?" And then you see the officers lined up on Broadway. And it sounds like she's...
Is she addressing the crowd or the officers?
Names. She is. She had her back turned away from the officers, talking to the crowd. Now she's listing off people's names, and the group is also repeating what she's saying. So she's appears to be kind of leading the crowd. And then you see the officers all lined up here. And this is right in front of the Hall of Justice, just to give you perspective. State and Broadway, directly in front of the Hall of Justice. And right at this location, police are being, the crowd is allowed to be here. But obviously you see that police line. No one's allowed to cross the police line in front of the Hall of Justice. That's all blocked off from ralliers. And then the Federal Building is next, and Spreckles Theater also still blocked off. So there's a few blocks stretch here of Broadway that's currently blocked off, with a lot of police officers, a lot of SUVs that are all parked out here. So I believe the sirens, a lot of what we heard, people were arriving.
Netta, she just said Eric Garner. She's reading off names of people who it appears have died at the hands of police. And it's a call and response with the crowd peacefully repeating those names.
Yeah. Yeah, right now, of course, you can see it. It's a peaceful protest. They're listing off names. The crowd's repeating what the speaker is saying, and they're facing police right now. But all of this appears to be a lot calmer than what we saw just a few minutes ago, with the crowd being pushed back.
And this is what we want to see. We want to see more of this and less throwing of objects. On the other side, it looks like another huge crowd as well.
George Floyd. Yeah, she just said George Floyd's name, and she says she can be here all day saying names, and she's addressing the officers now directly, just talking to them as they stand here on guard, and saying she can say names all day, and you know why I'm here. And she's actually saying these people who are here have been peacefully standing here. So this part of the crowd, people are just standing here and joining with her. And a lot of people, as we saw earlier, here in solidarity. There was groups that we saw with their signs up that said, "Brown people support Black lives." There was a lot of different minority groups, different age groups, all here standing in solidarity. So that's what we're seeing right now.
Netta,
you know, where there were kids out here earlier as well.
Netta, again, are you right now at Union and Broadway?
We're at State Street and Broadway.
State, and then
right
where
on
we're
the
looking
corner, so
now,
right in front of the Hall of Justice.
where the officers are, where a teen was just aimed, is that looking west or east? Right now, he's looking at the officers. Are we looking
East.
west? We're looking east, so toward First and Second.
Yeah.
And, okay, good. Just wanted to give
Right.
people an
That's
idea
where
of where
we
we
came
are
from.
and what's going on.
Yeah, sure.
That was very meaningful,
Yeah,
Netta, what we
words
saw
first.
that woman doing, reading the names of Black lives lost. And now it would seem to be a moment of a little bit more silence and everybody standing their ground.
Yeah, it's more of a somber moment here. You know, we heard a few people cheering in support of what she was saying. So this is a lot calmer now of a crowd, especially compared to what we saw on 2nd and Broadway. You know, as people were being dispersed, there was those frantic moments, and this a completely different feeling. This is quieter, it's somber, it's sad. So a lot of people here, as you can see, are wanting officers to hear their pleas for equality. I mean, that's really what we've heard of time and time again from many of the people who are out here protesting. You know, they want officers to know that they feel they're not being treated fairly. So that's what we're seeing being repeated to this line of officers. And you know, these officers have been told to come here and block Broadway because the violence escalated.
Hey, Netta,
So we saw
I just want to
that
interrupt you for a sec
moments
because we just lost it. We were showing people the other end where our photographer Brian White was. It's calm on that end too as well, where we're looking back on the other end. So we seem to have a little bit of a quiet standoff at the moment between police and protesters on both ends of Broadway right now.
What's he saying?
He's saying we all should be treated the same. And it's time that we join hands and begin to love each other.
It's time that we stop acting like animals. It's time that we act civilized.
Not sure if you can hear him directly, but
200 years from now,
he wants
future
everyone
generations
to act
will look back at
civilized.
us and they will say we were barbarians. When
People will look back on us and say we were barbarians, is what he's saying.
we need to end the hate.
And the hate is what he's saying.
The only answer is love.
And the only answer is love.
I'm not talking about ending anything here. I'm not
So right now, this man who's speaking,
And when there
again,
is
right in front of
peace,
the Hall
Netta,
of
the
Justice,
message
and
is
you
heard.
see the officers. Yeah, at this point, we can hear him loud and clear because it's quiet all around him.
Who's killing who?
So we are hearing his words. People are not yelling around him. So it's, you know, the calmer crowd has actually allowed us to make out why they are here. Now this woman is saying, how can I love these people, these officers?
Netta, can we?
When
Is there any way we can aim the mic and listen to this?
There's a little bit of profanity, just to give you guys a heads up.
It's a protest.
If we can, yeah, there's a bit of profanity going on, so I just want you guys to know that. But this woman is, you know, making an emotional plea that she's worried about her husband being near officers. She doesn't feel like he would be safe near them, so how can she love them? And that's kind of the gist of what she was saying. We are going to step back a little bit, just as, you know, people kind of come head to head. There's that chance that, you know, it gets a little more heated.
All right, this is behind Netta. This is across the street. This is video from our other photographer, Brian White, where it shows another peaceful line, it would seem, of law enforcement and protesters meeting head to head. But everything so far from what we've seen from this vantage point and Netta's vantage point has remained peaceful, and we're actually able to hear messages from the protesters now.
Yeah, at this point, if you guys can still hear me, it does look like, you know, they're discussing kind of the core of people's emotions here right before our eyes and right before officers' eyes as well. Not sure if you can hear what they're saying on the microphone now. We are hearing a bit more profanity, so I'm just going to continue to relay what the message is that's out here so that doesn't make it on our air. But at this point,
Netta,
there's a lot of emotion coming out.
We don't need to worry about offending people right now, Netta. We want to hear them.
They try to like us. You know how tired we all are, black females out here. You're pretty for
Okay,
a black
she's-
girl. Look at you with your top skin. Look at you with your fucking hands.
What is she saying?
Bitches. We fucking tired of everything.
So-
they don't see color, but they see color.
She's saying that
every time they try
people
to
may say they don't see color, but they do. And she's feeling it in her day-to-day life.
It's the same shit. They don't fucking love us. They will never love us.
Saying they don't love us and they'll never love us and we'll always be a threat to them. But for what? That's exactly what she's saying. She's saying we're peaceful. Why does this have to happen?
All I know is just people just die though when they fight hate with me.
And then the gentleman who was speaking earlier said, you know, people keep dying when they fight hate for hate.
Why should I embrace them when all they do is shoot me in the face?
And then this other man right here, why should I embrace them when they shoot me in the face?
If someone went into your house and took everything,
I'm not sure if you can hear her, but
and then beat up your whole family,
trying to stand close so you can
and then
make it off my
later on,
microphone.
You were face to face with the people who did it. And then you have people around you telling you how you should deal with your trauma. How you should be dealing with the people who took from you personal. And people are saying, embrace them, love them. We're all human. We're all one race, human race. Are we?
Doesn't seem that way.
Exactly.
I'm personally tired.
This is my everyday. You get the decision to choose. I do not. I am tired of educating white people. I am tired of educating white people and showing them, look, I am human. I am tired. So I am here using my constitutional right of peaceful assembly.
And we still
because
can't
know your rights. Because
still
I'm trying to
can't
take
And they still come with weapons.
We're over
That's
here
why I'm here,
peacefully.
sir.
They still gassed me 6 times yesterday.
Right now,
Disgusting.
Right now in this
you
moment.
see how
It's disgusting.
police and Ferguson they're calling in more and more. They're calling in more and more. We stayed peaceful. People in the police and Ferguson put down the baton because they realized this is not a race issue. This is a humanity issue. Period. Who gonna police the police? We have a right. We have a right to question when we think things are doing are unjust to us.
100%.
100%.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right now, though, what moment could we create right now?
Right now,
What do you want to see
They
right
can let
now?
us know they're on our side.
They
They standing
understand.
right here. They got
If they see we're not threatening, I want them to show. I want them to understand that we are not a threat. Right now, they are viewing us as threats. They might not say it, but they say it with body language. You gripping that baton mighty tight, sir. Do I feel, am I a threat to you? My voice too loud. Is this too threatening? Is this too radical for a black woman to be speaking out about her own rights? Is this too radical for you? I peacefully protest. Property has been peacefully protesting. We've been taking a knee. We've been putting up the fist. And we're tired. Do not tell me how to deal with my trauma.
If I can interrupt, as we are hearing her speak here in front of the officers, we also are hearing a few more bangs going off a couple blocks away. So I'm not sure if you can make that out on the microphone here. We're trying to point it directly to the woman who is speaking. And just down on Broadway, we see a
We can see the
few more
police
puffs of
telling
that
us,
smoke, some more tear gas may have been. We're live on the air right now. So yeah, just a couple blocks away, we're hearing a couple more flashbangs, that tear gas being fired out towards the crowd on Broadway. So it looks like the smoke that we're seeing, the gas that we're seeing in the air, just a few blocks from this location. Right now, at this location, State and Broadway, she's now calling for people to hold hands, stand up and line up against where the officers are, just face to face with the officers. So they're standing together now, holding hands. And you know, guys, all of this unfolding obviously just as we're live. So just to kind of bring you into what we've experienced over the past, I would say maybe 30 minutes. You know, on the other side of the street, we certainly saw the tear gas, the crowd dispersing. We're hearing that happen on the other side. And this side of the street, a lot calmer. This is their message is, let's create this moment of love. Let's create this moment of unity. You know, there are people who are upset here, but they're remaining peaceful here and now holding hands. They want the news to show this side. That's what this man is saying right now. They're seeing us reporting live, and so they want all of our viewers to see this side of the protests. I don't know if you guys have that chopper view or not from the other side, but you know, that's also what I'm watching here on Broadway. So on the other end of Broadway, we're hearing more bangs. So what a different scene it seems like from this side compared to that side. And obviously we can't tell or see what's happening there other than hearing the loud bangs and also just seeing the puffs of the smoke that's out there. So that may just be down on 2nd behind east of Horton Plaza and Spreckles Theater, which is where we were earlier. Are you guys able to hear me right now?
Yes, and now they're holding hands. It looks like.
Yes.
She's very emotional.
Okay,
she's angry. She's hurting, understandably so.
She certainly is, yeah.
Keep that flag on.
And you know, just to see people gathering together, they're holding hands, they're hugging, and there are a lot of highly emotional people. She, as you've been hearing, you know, just wants officers to hear what she's saying. You know, these officers are standing guard, blocking people off from Broadway, and they're asking the officers now to hold hands. They want to create a moment. They say, you guys hold hands, we'll hold hands. And they're trying to have a moment of peace, is what they're saying. They're asking people to put their batons down. They're asking officers to put their batons down and hold hands.
What's up? Why you guys
She's saying, show us with your body language.
Escalation. You guys are the fucking problem.
So here's a few.
All right, we've lost audio from Nida Rampur, and that was an incredibly emotional scene. People peacefully and passionately trying to plead their case with officers, trying to get them to change their posture, lower their batons. Right now we're looking at photographer Brian White's shot from the other end of Broadway, the direction from which we heard some bangs and some small explosions just a little while ago.
Yeah, so you could see this is all downtown, but it looks completely different depending on what intersection you're at. Where Netta was at, it looked very peaceful. It looked like they were trying to have a moment of peace with the police officers. And then over just walking distance away at the other block, we're hearing flashbangs and no police officers so far, just crowds gathering, walking around. We can't hear anything, but we see some people running.
This looks like it's 2nd Avenue where Brian is what I would guess. If we looked behind him, we would see, I think we would see City Hall. Brian, can you hear me? Brian, can you hear us?
Yeah, Carlo, I got you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Are you on 2nd Street right now, just off Broadway?
Yeah, you're right. I'm on 2nd Ave, right at Broadway.
And it is a much different scene where you're at, Brian. What is the vibe out there where you're at?
Well, we just got here. We just rounded the corner from City Hall, so we're just now seeing it as you are. There's another police line here, right here, blocking Broadway. So we're basically seeing it unfold as you are.
And what is the chanting? Can you hear what they're saying?
You have just some subgroups saying different things, so it's kind of hard to make it out, but I'll give it a shot here. Justice for George Floyd now. And I'm going to walk over here to a different group. And I would say it's a little more volatile over here. On this side, from where Netta was at. Justice now.
No justice! No peace! No justice! No peace! No racist! Police! No racist! Police! No justice! No peace! No justice! No peace!
All right, it would appear that that shot froze. We're going to effort you some more live shots downtown, but for now, we're going to take a break.
We're going to step aside. We're going to come back with News 8 at 5 with all the latest on the situation downtown. It appears to be in control at the moment, but we'll update you on any changes then. Again, join us for News 8 at 5.
You have a strategy in place to jumpstart your comeback. The KFMB stations have consultants available to help you navigate the new economy. Call the leader in San Diego for solutions with your